Sentinels just got grouped by XLG at Champs Paris, and once again, Sen City is in chaos. Everyone's already screaming about roster moves. Before we talk about that, we need to talk about a lot of other things, like their whole season, was this really a successful year or not, and how Sentinels might have shoot Kaplan on the foot. Buckle up because this one's messy. I made a video at the start of the season talking about this team's potential, and now that the smoke has settled, let's quickly revisit that. Back then, I said Narrate would be the secondary firepower behind Zekken, and Bang would be the steady anchor. And regionally, that actually came true. But on the international stage, the boys look like lost chicks wandering the streets. They finished last in Bangkok, but bounced back with a respectable 6th place in Toronto. Some might argue the bracket leaned in their favor with VCTCN opponents. But credit where it's due, making it that far still counts. Of course, once the tougher competition arrived, their run ended there. And now at Champs, they once again finished last. So, based on my expectations, regionally, they did well, but internationally, where it actually counts, I'd say they underperformed. Anyway, was this a successful year for Sentinels? Well, that depends on who you ask. Some will say yes and some will say no while they're bitching about it on X. Personally, I expected them to contend for trophies, but that just didn't happen. But ultimately, if the team feels this was a successful year,
I don't want to call it that because I feel like Cap said, and I think throughout the year, no one can really say we didn't progress from like the start of this team to now. I think that'd be unfair to say. No one can really say we didn't progress from like the start of this team to now. I think that'd be unfair to say.
Then who are we to argue with that? It's their story after all, and we're just along for the ride. Watching them go through the highs and lows is all part of rooting for this team. But hey, I understand that everyone has their own opinions, so feel free to sound them off in the comments and let's talk about it. Also, while we're at it, let's not forget Narrate and Bang actually replaced two of the greatest players to ever don the Sentinels jersey, and they still managed to stay competitive all year long. So anyway, have you guys been on X? People are actually mad at Kaplan. There's a lot of hate going on that platform. People are actually going at Kaplan. I haven't dived deep as to why, but if I would guess, then I think it has something to do with that enraged pussy clip.
But you're absolute pussies up there. Be competitors!
I don't know, I guess Sen thought they were cooking, but now their head coach is under fire. But was Kaplan actually being too harsh? Or was this just a random 2-minute clip we happened to catch? Well, there are 1,440 minutes in a day, and we only saw 2 of them. Surely, the guy isn't talking about enraged pussy 24/7, right? Whatever the case may be, some fans will get it and some will get mad. Or maybe it's the other way around. Either way, you'll always have people pointing fingers at which player dropped the ball. And now that the season's over, the curious ones are already buzzing. Will Sen actually shake things up this off-season? Before we proceed, let me just preface this by saying we're heading into highly speculative territory. There's no way we actually know what's going to happen with Sentinels while Champs Paris is still underway. But hey, it's kind of fun to think about this fantasy stuff. So with that said, let's start with the contracts. According to Riot's GCD, Narrate and Bang are locked in until 2026, while Zekken, johnqt, and zellsis are only signed through this year. On paper, that means Narrate and Bang are the ones most likely to carry Sentinels into the future. However, we've seen the rise of aggressive controller players, especially on Omen. Starting last year, the meta seems to reward this kind of playstyle. And sadly, Bang hasn't exactly been the most aggressive controller this year. Does that mean Sentinels should move on from him? Honestly, they could explore other options, but in my opinion, no. Bang is still one of the best anchors in the game. This offseason is the perfect time for him to grind, expand his playbook, and prove he can bring that aggression on the big stage. His natural style leans defensive and supportive, but that doesn't mean he can't adapt when it matters most. Besides, who are you even replacing him with? Bang is still young, and his future is bright. Once he learned to balance the yin and yang, when to aggress and when to anchor, then it's game over for the enemy. On to narrate. The guy admitted he's the most toxic on the team.
Who's the most toxic? Alright, next question.
Okay, next one.
And honestly, that might be a big reason why Sentinels never hit their full potential this year. Toxicity is like poison. It kills vibes fast. And once the vibes are gone, everything else collapses. But does that mean Sentinels should drop narrate? Maybe, but on the flip side, you could always bring in a performance coach and try another run, because the guy is insanely skilled.
Well, I know exactly.
Oh no. Nobody watching that smoke is insane business.
He just needs his head in the right place. A fun fact about this is back when PRX were making their Toronto run, I had a script lined up about how Sentinels basically live and die by narrate. If he plays well, they win. If he doesn't, they lose. But since I'm a one-man show, I had to pick my focus, and PRX's chaos was just too good to pass up. I don't know if it's just me, but at times it felt like Zekken wasn't playing like his usual self. Maybe it's because he is missing those immaculate setups Sacy used to feed him, or maybe he lost tenz, the Kobe to his Shaq.
I mean, I was just gonna say Shaq and Kobe. That's my only answer.
Or maybe the team just isn't clicking right now. Whatever the case, I miss 2024 Zekken, and I hope we get that version back. Needless to say, unless he retires, which seems unlikely given his recent post-match interview, Sentinel should absolutely offer him another contract. As for johnqt, he is quite the unk already, no? But don't let that distract you from the fact that he was actually Sentinel's highest rated player in Paris. I'm pretty sure Sen gives him another contract. I mean, what other IGL are you getting? Bustio? Yeah, sorry Bustio. And now zellsis. He is probably the hardest one to judge because he plays the same position as guys like One Leaf, Davai, Chronicle, and Meteor. Those players are defining the role right now. And when you put zellsis side by side with them, it's hard to know where to rank him. I mean, there's also Scuba. And also don't forget about Nats and the other players I'd comfortably place higher than zellsis. I'm not saying that you can't teach an old dog new tricks, but if it were up to me, I'd rather roll the dice on a young player who's hungry to prove themselves. But that's just me. So, do I think zellsis gets replaced? Well, it's complicated, and the team talks highly on his mid-rounding. Not trying to be a Debbie Downer here, but if that mid-rounding is really as great as they say, why isn't it showing up in wins? I don't want to be negative, but honestly, I just don't see the light at the end of this tunnel. Also, let's not forget about reduxx. What is the plan with him really? Are they trying to make him the poster boy of Tier 2 Valorant? Or are they just stashing him until someone buys him out? I'm curious what you guys think, so let me know again in the comments. And here's a fun one. How much would it actually take for tenz to come back? Would $1 million be enough? Has anyone asked him that? And hey, what about sacy?
Yeah, the last bullet of that spray.
Now I want to know your thoughts on this. Does it really not matter how you win a round? Or does that actually say more about how the whole year went? By the way, this was said after Sen fumbled a 5 versus 2 advantage and left Zekken to clutch the round. At some point, if you're not playing clean and keep making mistakes, reaching the ultimate goal becomes impossible. Needless to say, their season ends here. But if Sentinels want next year to look any different, a few things have to change. First, comms can keep collapsing under pressure. Second, they need an identity, not just reactions. Check all those boxes and the fundamentals will follow suit. So, would Sentinels actually change their roster? As for how it would actually go, it's really hard to predict. There's like a couple of ways it could go. I could discuss what might happen, what I want to happen, and then some other options including the nuclear option as well. So what might happen is that basically there will be no roster moves at all. Maybe they try to hatch it out, have a performance coach that would open up the emotional baggage or whatever it is. But it's hard not to think of, I'm not sure who it was, but a streamer said it that After going on a full year and not winning anything, you would think these guys wouldn't have any kind of resentment to each other. I forgot how it was actually said, but it goes something like that. With that said, I think the changes would be complicated because, like I said earlier, Zellsis is complicated because he's the favorite of the owner of the team, and then I think Bang was the least favorite, and Bang didn't perform well when he needed to. There could be a timeline where Zellsis stays and Bang leaves. Then you could also look at the toxicity part where the rate would be gone if they would be looking at that. Then there's also the possibility that they want to move on and have a younger team, so Zellsis would be gone, and I think johnqt can be the lone unk in the team that could guide the youngsters, you know. It's really tricky no matter how you look at it. Anyway, now let's go to what I want to happen. Basically, if I were in control, I would want to move forward without Narrate and Zellsis. So why Narrate? Surface level, I think he's trying to prove himself way too much. I think he's trying so hard, but the thing is, zekken needs a fully supportive initiator player the likes of Sacy. Not that Narrate is not skilled, but it's not just his gameplay. He's kind of like, I don't know how you would exactly call it, but he's a different breed of player compared to Sacy. So who should replace Narrate? Well, Ethan would be a nice and solid pickup, and EU, since 100 Thieves are actually like rebuilding, EU would be really nice as well. Now, why remove Zellsis? I've already said it earlier, this is a matter of preference. At this point, I'd rather take youth and passion than experience. And who might the perfect replacement be? The obvious choice for me is Cryo. No shade to zekken, but Cryo gives them a steadier upper, and a Sentinel that could go toe to toe with the likes of Leaf, Davai, Alpha, and others in terms of firepower and aim. But my sleeper pick for this one is Boostio. You know, before Boostio was the IGL of 100 Thieves or EG, this guy was on tier 2 and he was actually decent. But joining Sentinels, of course, johnqt still stays the IGL, and Boostio focuses on his skills, mechanics, or whatever, his aim, and lock down the Sentinel role. Signing Boostio would also replace Zellsis as the Vibes Merchant. Or better yet, if Sentinels keeps Zellsis as well, Zellsis and Boostio in a roster will be Vibes domination, man. I can't even like begin to think how it would be, how immaculate the Vibes would be. So that's basically it if I have a say on what Sen should do. Anyway, do you think there are better picks than what I've selected? Feel free to leave it in the comments. Now let's go for the nuclear fantasy option, and this one would be all for the hype. Everyone gets booted, including Kaplan, and they only keep zekken and johnqt. And now they will sign Mindfreak. You might say they can't, but johnqt gets American citizenship. And for a shocking turn of events, they poached Trent away from G2 with a 1 million salary per month. Or Verno, you know. And for the last slot, it's an Oxygen reunion because they're finally bringing up reduxx. So, what do you think of this nuclear option? I think there's a 1% chance this would happen, but this would go hard, no? Again, feel free to drop in the comments who do you think Sen will pick up in case a roster change is inevitable. Anyway, I'll see you guys in the comments. Leave a like if you enjoyed, hit that sub button so you don't miss out, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace.